This is from the book, The Bones of the Master. I tried to force a lot of you all to read it. I don't. Did you ever read it? You did. You should. It's wonderful. The Bones of the Master is this wonderful. It's this guy who found this Chan teacher up in upstate. He's a writer in upstate New York, and he ended up having to go to China to help this old guy find the bones of his master. You know. And it's a wonderful book, extremely well written. But anyway, so this little guy, the Zen Chan is, Chan is the same as Zen. I'm going to say his name was Tsung Day. That's close. It's very, very funny. So he referred to his, the guy's name is George, his student. He calls him Georgie. And so he keeps saying Georgie, and he'll wake him up, just tell him he's discovered something. Very kind of like a wonderful energy. So he said this he just suddenly burst it out and said this to Georgie. He said, "I move my body and get up. That's get up Chan." So whatever your practice is, that could be that's get up vipassana, that's get up mindfulness, that's get up whatever. So I move my body and get up, and that's get up Chan. Eat is eat Chan. Walk, sit down, sleeping and speaking. Everything is Chan. Again, this is something about like your practice, your lifelong practice. Everything is Chan. What means? His English is not so good. What means? That is question. What means is I never lose my mind. It's an extraordinary sentence. I just love that sentence. So so I had to go searching to find it because and found in this little book, because but that sentence so captured my imagination. I never lose my mind. Always keep, and you can see east, west, sky, earth, everything pure, everything coming you can see. Understand? So, what does it mean to lose your mind? Did you ever lose your mind? Did I ever lose my mind? So I wanted to share with you all, I think maybe we'll get to the end of this, I'll maybe share with you a moment of losing my mind fairly recently. But I was playing around with that, the thing of losing my mind and using my mind. So can you do anything without your mind? Could you speak without using your mind? It's like, what could you do without your mind? So I want to just tell you this is a true story. It's a favorite story. Oh, no, let me tell you this first. So another email I get so many emails. I got this from someone who's just he's just really experiencing Vipassana for the first. It's lovely to dialogue with him because it's all very fresh, And so he said, he says, I sat for 20 minutes and I was watching. He said, I was kind of trying to explore the difference in the mind and the body, And he said, I was watching the body, and he said, I was really experiencing sort of like, like the tension or anxiety in the chest area. And he said, so that was the body, And so I emailed him and I said, so what was it that was watching the body? That kind of stumped him for a minute. I said, was that your mind, So then he had this, he really loved that very much, and so he came right back at me and he said, is it true that mine, so he said it was my mind, right? He said, is it true that my mind means more mind? Does that make sense? My mind is already separated from mind. If you say my mind, you're already not mind. You're this little person. My mind actually becomes more mind, right? So I thought that was very good. So we constantly separate. We constantly separate out from mind, right? So I'm watching my mind. I'm watching my body, right? There's this I, and there's it's like there's this third thing, right, that is separate, that is the mind. So I think that's part of what he meant by he said, I never lose my mind. Right? I think he meant I never separate from my mind. I'm always aware there is mind. There's mind always. So anyway, so that was just the preface. So so he said, oh my God, I'm just what a mess. It's just such a burden to have a mind. Anyway, so he also said, and when he was describing what he was doing, he said, so he said, I was watching that, and he was watching the body, and he said, and I noticed, he said that I get swept away into thought. And he suddenly then, I've lost body. He said, I've got swept away by thought. Which is, I love that, right? Because isn't that what happens to every one of us as we sit? We get swept away, right? We get swept away, and then suddenly where are we? What is it? Oh. And then, so he was finding that coming back to the body was grounding, which of course is quite wonderful, isn't it? Yoga is a primary way to come back to the body. So, but I love that expression. I got swept away, and I get swept away, and then he said, I realized, and then I came back. So I'm just wanting to talk a few moments about being swept away, and this idea of I never lose my mind. I just loved it. Can you imagine aspiring to never losing your mind? Just never losing your mind. What the hell does that mean? So my story is, I love this story because it's a true story. It actually happened. Those are the best stories. This happened to a little boy who's about 4 years old in Tennessee. And we're going to call him Mikey. And so he was getting ready to go to kindergarten. He was graduating into kindergarten. And, everybody was really proud of him and just cute as a little bug. And so the week before kindergarten, he started acting a little, his tummy started hurting, right? He had an upset stomach, right? And then, so he was having a hard time going to sleep. And then he was kind of got sort of irritable. And then he started sort of getting in little arguments with his brother and sister. And he got quite emotional. And so, it was, he kind of got a little bit more agitated as the week went on. And so finally his grandfather just sat him down and said, now, Mikey, what's going on with you? What you've been sort of unhappy, and you seem like something's going on in your mind. So what is this? What's happening with you? So I think he had some tears coming down his eyes, and he finally said, "I'm afraid. I'm afraid." So his grandfather said, "Well, what are you afraid of, Mikey?" He said, "I'm afraid of going to school." He says, "I'm afraid of going to this school." And so his grandmother said, grandfather said, well, you're going to be you'll be a big boy, you're a smart boy, you'll do well. So he said, so why are you afraid, Mikey? And Mikey said, I'm afraid of counting. And so his grandfather said, but you've been doing this for all summer. He said, you can count 1, 2. He said, show me. Mikey said, 3, 4. He said, yes. He said, you can count very well. So Mikey said, he's kind of shook, and he said, yes, but he said, what if they do 21? So I love that story so much because 21 represents everything that he didn't, everything that scared him totally, right? He was totally scared and frightened of this 21. What would 21 be? What would it do? So this is a child who was experiencing profound fear of the unknown, right? Profound fear of the unknown, represented by just those numbers 21, right? So we're kind of staying focused on this idea of swept away, right? So Mikey was swept away by a profound fear in his system. And so as I've thought about this today, and so I was reading old Sunday, I just became sort of fascinated. So I'm going to share with you all a little bit of my experience of fear. But on the other hand, would I ever be able to find what I wrote here? Probably not. Here's the definition of fear. Fear is an emotion induced by a threat perceived by living entities. That means by us, right? Or your little dog or cat could experience fear, right? That would be a living entity too. Fear is an emotion induced by a threat perceived by living entities which causes a change in brain and organ function, and ultimately a change in behavior, such as running away, hiding, freezing, or freezing, being paralyzed from some traumatic event. Fear may occur in response to a specific stimulus happening in the present or to a future situation which is perceived as risk to health, risk to your life, or your status, or your power, your security, or something, anything that you hold value, as of value to, the fear of that being taken away from you. So I've been thinking about fear for the past week, reading on the internet, Monday morning, everybody in Greece is getting up. They don't know there's any money in the bank, right? The ATMs are empty, right? And I started thinking, what must that be like, right? I mean, it's really looking as if, the whole currency is just going to fall to pieces. How would you tell anyone to work with fear when it's totally right in the brain chemistry, in the brain and the body is just completely constricted. If you had to write down your primary fear, what would you say? What are you most afraid of? What am I most afraid of? Growing old, being sick, losing money, losing the love of your life, losing your dog. A lot of people now, I think one of the primary fears is Alzheimer's. I hear that over and over. Like clients will come and they'll say, I can't remember things. It's a tremendous fear, right, of losing, your faculties. Not what he's talking about, losing it. But this becomes fascinating to me. First of all, as I said, I'm going to tell you a little bit about my own experience of it. But isn't it the primary example of losing your mind? I mean, isn't that what fear is? I mean, maybe not, but I mean, it seems to me, again, when he says, "I never lose my mind," I think that would mean that he's saying he's not afraid, right? That he doesn't live in fear. I never lose my mind. Always keep, and you can eat, and you can see east, west, sky, earth, everything pure, everything coming you can see. Understand? So I suspect that fear, when fear takes over your little mind and body, or my mind and body, we've lost our mind. And it's the last thing that we would think of, I think. Right? I don't think anyone would say to you, well, the problem is, Allison, you've lost your mind, right? I mean, you say, what do you mean I've lost my mind? But I mean, it's like, but it seems to me that there's an enormous value in having that concept that the mind is in a state of fear, and then we've separated from it, right? And then we've identified with all of the stuff in the mind. So, so that brings me to, that's kind of a joke, right? That brings me to, meaning that as if it's like, you know, like a real segue. It's not a segue because I already thought about it. So that brings me to one of the core teachings of Vipassana meditation. One of the, there's a, you know, if you had to say what is the foundation of Vipassana meditation, I think you'd probably say the four foundations of mindfulness. Probably. There's a lot of other answers, but learning to work with the four foundations of mindfulness. So when I talk about fear in my life or in your life, number one, if you've been studying this stuff, you know that I'm talking about the third foundation of mindfulness, which the Buddha said is being mindful of a mind state. Right? Anger, envy. I've had envy. I've had a lot. Anger, never mind. Anger, envy. And then the other side of envy is jealousy. Do you know the difference? Jealousy is you're going to take something away from me. Envy is I just don't want you to have what you have. Envy is awful. Jealousy, envy, you know, all of this stuff, anger, are mind states. They're mind states. We sometimes confuse that with feelings, you know, emotions and moods, but it's not. It's a mind state. So what happens if you are able to remember that what you're experiencing is a mind state? It's just a mind state. You've already created a bit of, you found a little bit of ground on which to stand, right, and look at it without getting lost in it. The problem of any mind state is you're swept away. It sweeps you into some sort of an alternate reality, right? And then you identify with it, and then you become it. I am that. I am this mind state. And to be able to step back, I mean, and again, talking about this being, like having a lifetime of practice, to be able to step back and recognize it's the mind, or my famous slogan, it's the mind stupid. It's to be able to step back and to see that, oh, it's the mind. It's just the mind. There's a moment of freedom. It's a moment of stepping out of the storm. It may be so powerful it will pull you right back, grab your ankles and pull you right back in. But for a moment you've stepped out of it. I had this image of this morning of someone lashing you to the mast of a boat, right, on this big boat, and they're just lashing you, but you're agreeing to it, right? So they lash you on this mast, and then, and then the rain comes, and the lightning comes, and the boat goes like this, right, and it's just like this huge, just horrible experience, it's just terribly frightening, right? And then they pull this thing, and then everything stops because it was all electronically induced. That's the mind. That's actually the mind. And then that which is just standing there, not really being affected by it, is the essence of what we truly are. We lose that essence of what we truly are, and we become all of that crap in the mind, right? The fear or whatever. I mean, we're really, it's like we're lashed to this mast, with all of this stuff going on, and when in fact it's all it's all imaginary. But to experience that, I mean, to see that it's just imaginary is extraordinary. So I'm almost finished. So I wanted to now tell you about my little experience of fear. So when I got so most of you all know. I mean, I'm going to repeat this only the next 50 times because it's the only experience I've had lately that's really interesting. So I sat for a month, and was in pretty solid, pretty strong state of silence. So I go to the airport in Boston and have a stroke. Right? Well, that can really kind of disturb your equanimity. So then I have this stroke at the airport, and so I didn't have enough sense to dial 911. I just thought, well, I better get to the gate. So anyway, the long story, I got on the plane and flew to Long Beach, which of course, tell that to your doctor, right? And so then I never claimed to be intelligent. I've always claimed to be attractive, but not intelligent. So anyway, so then of course, tell this to your doctor, and then I got in the shuttle and went to Long Beach. So, so blah, blah, blah. So, and at some point, we called Travis to come to the urgent care. So I got to the hospital. So I would say a large part of the time I was practicing, right? And when I say that, I only mean, I don't mean that like, I don't mean like Sunday, right? I mean, I'm not saying that I didn't lose my mind, because I did, but I mean that I was curious about how the meditation practice applied to all of this. I would be watching, my breath, blah blah. So in other words, it didn't all slide away. It was kind of like an interesting experience for me, and I wasn't really in touch with fear, which most people, of course. Remember, I was kind of floaty, right, Trevor? But all the way through those first 2 or 3 days, I would say more or less my practice held all the way through. It held, So when I would lie in bed, so I would watch my breathing, and I'm fairly mindful of everyone coming and friends. And so then the surgery was scheduled, and I think it was kind of like a perfect storm, because I had to get up and they had to do all of this stuff to prepare for the surgery, like about 5 a.m. And now they kind of like swiping. They take every bacteria off your body right from here to there, and it's really kind of a fairly personal experience, if you know what I mean. But anyways, so we had to go through that, and it went on and on and on, and so then the doctor announces he's not doing the surgery. This was like, and we've been preparing for it for hours, And so then I'm supposed to go down to the surgical theater at like about 6 a.m. The thing was canceled. I didn't really end up doing that until 24 hours later. That's probably was the last straw for me, right? I had held it together pretty much, but then all of a sudden I had 8 more hours to go, right? It was delayed by whatever, 8 or 9. Back to the whole thing of, as some of you know, my father had this surgery and had a massive stroke. So all of these possibilities. So slowly the fear started creeping in. So like within, by that late morning or afternoon, the fear started creeping in, just fear. And and as I said, to some extent, I don't think I had been afraid the whole time. A little, I was a bit upset. There was no fear. I didn't have this feeling I was, oh my God, I'm going to die. But then it started coming in. It started creeping in slowly. And what I noticed by that late afternoon is it came in waves, right? It would come in waves, and the mind, or the whatever you want to call it, would be swept away in fear, in what's going to happen, what if I die, and as I told some of you, it really felt like being insane. It felt kind of like insanity, because I couldn't find any ground to hold on to, So it got worse, meaning that by probably like 3 hours or so, maybe late that night before the surgery, I would say maybe it was like rhythmic, but it happened maybe every 40 seconds. By every 40 seconds, I would go into this kind of fear, just like a craving fear. Not even, it's not even intelligent enough to say, oh, what if I die? I mean, even that's kind of like logical. But I mean, it was just like fear, and really, I think that the thoughts really would not make any sense at all. You could even say, maybe it was like a little paranoia. I don't know, but this was sort of like the end of after say 8 days, or maybe this was the 9th day. At some point, some awareness started becoming aware that it was a pattern, right? That it just kept happening, right? I mean, it's like, some part of me became aware of it's going to come back in about 20 seconds, right? I mean, it's just because I'm noticing it, right? And that then when it would come back, I would be swept away. I mean, I being the observer, that there would just be this fear that would just come up, and then it become aware then that it would pass. So then at that point, something in me started remembering, that this was a mind state. It's just the mind. Something started. Started like getting stronger, right? That it's just the mind. I didn't think it's your mind, stupid, which perhaps I should have. But it's just the mind. The mind. This is in the mind, and it became stronger and stronger, and as this awareness came that it was just a mind state, it lost all of its power. So I don't even, it's not, I can't exactly say, it's not like, Hollywood music started playing or, no, it was just like, it just sort of, it's like, it just kind of like, what is it, some says the world will be with fire and some with ice, or, do you remember that old saying? It's like, whatever it was, it just petered out. It's just like, it just went away slowly, because it had lost someone had turned the light or turned that switch, and then all of the magic ended, right? The lightning and the rain and the things, the ship like that. And then there was just this stillness that was observing. That's all there was. It was just this stillness inside that was observing. So, what I'm wanting to say to you is, as long as we do not experience the mind, right, as being every moment is mind. Every moment is mind. Every thought is mind. Every feeling is mind. As long as we do not, I've been talking about this for the past 2 weeks, but Krishnamurti said, right, that you must watch the mind and the way it's working every moment. You must continually watch it. And you must have this awareness of like being aware of when you get swept away. Just as the guy said you have this awareness. We must know, So we're sitting and we see that we've been swept away, we've got lost in thought. We've disconnected from the mind, really. We've disconnected from it. We've been swept away. And the degree to which we maintain this awareness of the reality of the mind, I'm going to read it. I'll read you, if I can find it. That you will be, and I will be, less and less captivated by it, captured by it, trapped by it, right? Caught in its story, right? Whatever its silly story is, we'll no longer be buying its story. We will know that, as I said, our essence is not remotely that. This is Wombo. These names, these people with their names. It's spelled P-O, but it's pronounced Bo, right? Now, why wouldn't you just say pose? He says, like, but anyway, his name is Wombo, and he's like incredible. He's actually is just totally wonderful. The Buddha and all sentient beings are only one mind. There is nothing else. So is there like one, so are we all these little separate minds sitting here in this room? Right? Is that right? There's a Monique mind and a Victor mind. And, the minute we separate from it, then and become like, no, there's me, there's Victor, right? There's not mind. God forbid that I would call myself a mind, right? This is not a mind. This is me. This is Victor, right? So we're already disconnected from mind. You are, when you identify with, a personality. Nobody wants to call themselves a mind for some reason. I don't know why they do. The Buddhas and all sentient beings are only one mind, and there is nothing else. This mind, since beginningless past, has never been born. When was your mind born? When was it born? Right? Just think about it. When was your mind? I mean, no one's asking you when your body was born, right? My body was born, 35 years ago or so, approximately. When was your mind born? And he says, and it has never perished. It is not green nor yellow. It has no shape or form. It is not subject to existence or non-existent. And it is not to be considered new or old. Is your mind new? Think about it, right? How old is your mind? We're not asking you how old is your body, right? For me, how old is your mind, right? It is not subject to age. It's neither, young nor old. And he says it's neither long or short, nor is it large or small. It transcends all inhibition, all limitation, measurements, names, words, traces, or opposites. This very substance is it. Stir your thoughts and you miss it. That's being swept away. Right? That is the meaning of being swept away. Stir your thoughts and you miss it. When I was in the hospital, my thoughts were stirred, right? They were totally stirred. I was in this total, this virtual storm. And it was real only because I believed all of those things. Okay. It is like empty space. Well, God forbid, It has no bounds and cannot be measured. Just this one mind itself is Buddha. Buddha and sentient beings are not different. It's just that sentient beings grasp appearances, grasping your thoughts, grasping your feelings, identifying with everything in this mind. And seek outwardly. They become sentient beings, I guess that would include me and thee, right? They become more and more lost. The more we go outside and separate from this, we get lost. If you employ Buddha to seek Buddha, what does that mean? If you employ Buddha to seek Buddha, you can say it won't work. If you separate out and make this Buddha something else that's going to save you, right? That's employing Buddha, right? To seek Buddha. If you use your mind to grasp your mind, that's just separating out. You may go on all your life until the end of time, but you will never succeed. Don't you realize that if you cease thinking and forget thought, Buddha will spontaneously appear? So, how do you cease thinking? Don't answer one moment at a time. Right? 1 minute, millisecond at a time, you cease thinking, right? A space when you sit where there's just a moment of the mind resting. That's what he's saying. He's not saying, so you just become brain dead or, this empty space where you never think. But we aspire to these moments of the mind absolutely resting. So and then it just simply is open space. So I love that. That's all I have to say. I'm out now. So, I love the idea of one little thing to remember. I hope you can kind of hold on to that idea of when's the last time I lost my mind, right? I bet everyone in this room could name exactly the last time you lost your mind. I can. A little fit of anger, a little fit of impatient. So just imagine somebody who can say, this little monk who can say, I never lose my mind. It's just extraordinary.